I just want to highlight yet again. I know I'm beating a dead horse, and I'm sorry, but V Rising is now in 1.0. They've released their final selection of major content. It's a whole new area that includes, according to the description, a face-off with Dracula himself as like the final boss. I don't know what he's going to look like. There's like a shadow of him you can see when you go into the game, and when you're looking at all the bosses, there's so many bosses that you can track and track down in the world and then go fight. And his silhouette looks awesome. I just don't know like what he's going to look like, how difficult it is, but we're talking like I think it's up to 100 levels of leveling up as a character. So it's a beefy game, and that final boss they recommend that you're level 90 or above for that
Oh,
final
jeez.
section.
Really?
Wow.
So
Wow.
like they really want you to get better. Now, here's some cool things I wanted to highlight about V Rising. So this is a game that a lot of people will ignore because of the crafting and survival elements. Like, it's not for me. Never mind. I'm not going to do it. I totally get it. Like, not many people want to stand there chopping at trees and banging at rocks, and I totally get it. I totally get it. But they've done a few cool things. When you start a game, you can either join a public server and kind of play with other players. It'll match up randomly, and you can kind of be in the same world together, PvP or not. You can kind of pick which type of server you want, and you can go be a vampire, build your castle with other vampires, and raid each other's castles and do that whole deal if you want. Or they have the ability, and they host it. You don't have to do any hosting. You just start a private server, you name it on your own, and then they give you a huge list of rules you can set. They had some of these in my experience throughout the early access, but now it is a very robust list of things you can do. You can do everything from make it super easy to make it super difficult. You can make it so crafting takes way less items or way more. You can make it so each little node of resources gives you a lot more, gives you a lot less. You can basically change the sliders on everything you're doing in the game. Like treasure chests, do they hold more or less than usual? Like a little multiplier, you can make it harder or easier for yourself. So I think if
That's
you went into this game and you were like, I'm just going to fire it up on easy, I'm going to slide some of these sliders so I get much more stuff, and it requires way less wood and stone and copper or whatever to build things, you can do it. And I don't think the survival crafting part's going to bother you too much if you go in and do it that way. If you just change those sliders. Now, in my opinion, it's more fun to do it the way they have intended. I think the pacing is actually quite good. I'm not going to change any of that, but I just wanted to highlight that it's cool that they give you the player, whether you're playing solo and you can lock down the server and it's just you and no one will ever interrupt you and it's a full-on single-player
nice.
game, or you can open it up Valheim style with a password and invite friends to join you. So like really, really cool player. What's the word? Like they give you control and power over how you want to play.
Yeah, just good, like freedom. Just good freedom,
Player freedom. Thank you.
customization.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Player agency? Is that
Yeah,
right?
I like that too. Guys, these are all good words.
All right. Yeah. We're
So
wording real good right now.
we're wording so good.
Yeah.
So yeah, but the game
Vocabulary. So good.
it did wipe all my progress, which was actually fine because I hadn't played it since last summer. And even if I had fired up how far I was and everything that I had collected, and I had multiple locations and chests full of all kinds of stuff, I would have been kind of like that classic Johnny Depp meme where he's confused getting off the ship. I'd be like, what what button is it again? And so I actually don't mind starting over. They're excuse me, they're introducing a whole bunch of new elements to the game as well. And right from the jump, things are a little bit different, including controller support. It's taken a little bit of adjusting because I do like playing with keyboard and mouse, but I'm getting used to it. Right now, they don't have the option. Speaking of player freedom, here's where it's struggling. It doesn't have the
Mm.
option to map your own buttons, as far as I can see, which to
Dude,
me on a PC game is like a major oversight.
that
But
just any video game.
Yeah.
I've said it before. I don't understand like how difficult it could possibly be to just have in the settings being like put however the buttons you
map it.
want.
Right.
Like I just don't get it. I don't know.
Because I played a lot of No Rest for the Wicked and a lot of Hades and Hades 2, and all of those have such similar button setups. The dodge, the attack, all that stuff's very similar, surprisingly. And this is way different. Now I have to hit like the right trigger for my main attack and stuff like that. And I'm
Mm.
like, no, let me change it back to X. That's what I'm used
No.
to hitting for the last 40 hours of gaming.
Yeah.
So anyway, but minor complaint that I'm pretty sure they're gonna add in there
Hmm.
because they've added so much other stuff to the game. But anyway, it's very, very good. It's super fun. You creating your own vampire and then having them wake up as they kind of like rise out of their coffin at the beginning and they have nothing. Or you can make it, by the way, you can start. A lot of people that have been upset about not being able to play the new content until they work their way back through all of the game. You can start and you can have this little slider to decide what level do you want to start at. You could start at level 90 if you want.
Oh.
You could start with all the gear. It's like a lot of survival games. It's kind of, you go from like bone and wood type items to copper, then to iron, then it upgrades over time.
Sounds like they really don't care about you, like about being like kind of like forcing you to do things. They're just like, hey, listen, just jump in.
Do
play
it.
the game. Yeah.
Just go do it. Just go do it. Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think it's really cool. And if you wanted to just get in there and start building a castle, you can turn all the sliders off in terms of like getting invaded, make the enemies super easy, and just go craft and build vampire castles. You can absolutely do that if that's what you want to do. So yeah, I love this game. I think it's phenomenal. They did a really good job over the last, I think it's just almost exactly 2 years of early access content, and then 1.0. And it should hit PS5 later this year too. And hopefully by then they'll have the remapping in place. But there you go, V Rising. Oh, so good. It's
Nice.
really great.